Shena Shena Orasan Pora Shari Haza Haza Pora Shaya Kurya Kurya Mora Kurya Kurya Kiri Shara 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 Surya Surya Fujaya Fujaya Fudoya Fudoya Vishareya Mora Kinji Shirya Shanyana Hoya Mata Samaka Shiraya Samaka Maka Shiraya Samaka Shiraya Kishivaraya Samaka Nara Kinji Samaka Mara Nara Samaka Shira Samagaya Samaka Sabamaka Shedaya Samaka Shakira Shedaya Samaka Hodamaya Shedaya Samaka Nora Kenji Hagyaraya Samaka Maharishamyaraya Samaka Namakaratan Toraya Namo Oreya Bolyo Kechu Shefaraya Samaka Shide Damodora Hodoya We humbly request that three treasures lead us to true wisdom. We dedicate the merit of reciting the Dharani of the Great Compassionate One to Shakyamuni Butsu and celebrate his supreme enlightenment. May we fulfill the obligations to reform and affect us, believe in all living beings throughout their free realms and help all beings attain perfect wisdom. Oh, Buddha, struck space and time, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita. Namo Karatanno Toraya Namo Oriya Oryogi Shishikoraya Fuji Sato Boya Moko Sato Boya Moko Yaruri Kyaya and Sahara Aeshutam Om Shana Oshekiri Ko Imo Oreya Boyo Kecha Shefarari Ko Bana Manora Kecha Kere Moko Hodo Shame Sabo Oto Joshu Beno Shui Sabo Sato Nomo Borya Mohate Shoto Jito En Oboryo Kiyo Yachikyara Chikiri Moko Fuji Sato Sabo Sabo Mora Mora Moki Moki Rito Rito Yokuryo Kembo Toryo Toryo Hojaya Chemoko Hojaya Shitora Tora Cherena Shefaraya Sharo Sharo Mamo Hamora Hojere Yoke Yoke Sheno Sheno Ora Samfara Shaya Haza Haza Fara Shaya Koryo Koryo Mora Koryo Koryo Kiri Sharo Sharo Shere Shere Surya Surya Fojaya Fojaya Fodoya Fodoya Nechereya Nora Kinji Shere Shanyana Hoya Mono Somo Koshidoya Samaka Maka Shira Sonomogaya Somoko Sobomoko Shidoya Somoko Shakira Shidoya Somoko Sodomogya Shidoya Somoko Lora Kinji Hagyaraya Somoko Mohori Shingyaraya Somoko Namokara Tanto Toraya Namo Oreya Oryo Keche Shekharaya Somoko Shite Nomodora Odoya Somoko Nyanki Shinze Fuji Shokan Jorai Funzo Dai Hiemon Bunkan Jinshu Sushi Join Boni Kohon Shion Sushi Kyajirai Dai Osho Kaisan Deji Myoshin Taishitsumo Zenzu Dai Osho Kaka Jojo Zoyan Jeho Sanshi Ishi Fushi Sambo Samokosa Moko Jahoro Namo Karatanno Oraya Namo Oriya Boryo Kechi Shiforaya Fuji Sato Boya Moko Sato Boya Moko Kyaroni Kyaya and Sahara Hare Shutamo Tomshana Moshikiri Tori Mo Oriya Boryo Kiche Shifurai Toba Namo Nora Kiche Kayama Kohodo Shame Sabo Hoto Josho Beno Shuyen Sabo Sato Nomo Boya Mohate Jodo Jetoe Obaryo Kiryo Yate Kyara Chekikiri Moko Fuji Santo Sabo Sabo Mora Mora Moki Mokiri Toi Koryo Koryo Emo Toryo Toryo Hojaya Chemoko Hojaya Chetora Tora Shuranga Shiforaya Sharo Sharo Momo Hamora Hoshire Yoke Yoke Shano Shano Ora Samfura Shara Hasa Hasa Fura Shaya Kuryo Kuryo Mora Kuryo Kuryo Kire Sharo Sharo Shara Shara Surya Surya Fujaya Fujaya Fudaya Fudaya Mechaya Mora Kinchi Shurya Shurya Nahaya Mama Samaka Shidaya Samaka Bhakta Shidaya Samaka Shidaya Geshafaraya Samaka Mora Kinchi Samaka Mora Mora Samaka Shira Sunnamogyaya Samaka Sabamaka Shidaya Samaka Shakyara Oshadaya Samaka Hodamagya Shidaya We humbly request the illumination and protection of all beings wise and holy. We have gathered together reverently before the spiritual beings of earth and sky, recited the tyranny of the great compassionate one. We humbly offer the meritorious gain in praise of all beings great and small who bring peace and protection to this place of practice. May we help harmony in the Sangha, peace both inside and outside, and freedom from all hindrances in the way. And may all beings throughout the Dharma realm equally attain complete and perfect wisdom. Oh, Buddha's broad space and time, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita, the Dharma incomparably profound and exquisite, of thousands of millions of kalpas, we are now permitted to hold it, say, spirit and accept it. May we awaken to the true mind of Tathagata. We are continuing the Vimalakirti Sutra Teisho on chapters 10 to 14, Teisho by Shodo Harada. Finally, Vimalakirti says, if there is especially excellent medicine, it treats the person when it is fully ingested. And this is the same with this fragrance. Vimalakirti, being sick in bed, is expressing this. Many people came to see him and wish him well, and when Manjushri went to visit him, he said to him, Vimalakirti, why when you you are so completely enlightened, are you sick? And Vimalakirti says, I'm not sick. The whole world is sick, and I only wanted to somehow help this poisoned world so much that I got sick too. As we chant in those 4 vows, sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Desires are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it. This is this stance of a Buddha, the way of the Dharma. And here it is shown how to fulfill this in our way of living. Sutra says, Ananda addressed the Buddha. This is unprecedented. Where honored one, can fragrant food perform the Buddha's work like this? The Buddha said, just so, Ananda. Ananda is amazed at these words to be awakened by eating. Who has ever heard of such thing? And the Buddha answers further, it's not only teachings of words, but the body shining gold and being fragrant is also a teaching and comes about from this food and its fragrance. As we say in the sutras that we chant before the meals, the very same thing. The food is not only material nourishment, but also nourishment for our mind. We also get warm from it in the cold weather. It brings us motivation and energy for our work. All of our billions of cells are reinvigorated, regenerated from this food, which also has a flavor. A flavor of sweet or salty, sour, spicy, like mustard or bitter. The flavor of sweet is the flavor we first taste when we come into the world. And then we can emphasize well and become a delicious person who could be trusted well because they have undergone all of those flavors in their life as well. The mind has to evolve, and this is written all in our meal sutras. And if we eat well, then this eating from knowing how this is also nourishing our mind, not just superficially thinking about how this food doesn't taste very good. That one will only give us indigestion. All things that we experience, all of them are source of wisdom. Sutra says, there are Buddha lands where the illumination of the Buddha performs the Buddha's work. In this way, we are not praying to be thankful to a Buddha or seeking to awaken. There are all things in the world, and each and every one of them are there to awaken us. Master Dogen went to China and he was not there for so long, maybe 4 or 5 years, but he said that he had found out a Master Tendo's place. The nose on the face is vertical. The eyes on the face are horizontal. And only that he surely saw nothing special. No great special Dharma. He didn't bring any wonderful Buddha statue or mysterious sutra text, but he saw clearly that mind that is not deceived by anything whatsoever. And this, no one can fool them about ever again. The sun, it rises in the east, and the moon goes down kind of in the west. And at dawn the cock crows, and every 3 years there is always a leap year. Master Dogen wrote it clearly. The sun goes up in the east and the moon comes down in the west. And at the dawn there is a cock crowing, right there. That is the Buddha Dharma. The cock crows when it's dawn, and every 3 years there is a leap year. This is the Buddha Dharma. When there is no budging, no big move around, these things are as they are. There is the Buddha Dharma. Not as something special, not as something to be thankful to. If without, if within there is not a speck of anything, if our mind is totally clear and not caught, then everything that encounters our noticing are our steps to awakening. The morning star was what it was that awakened the Buddha. For Master Kyogen, it was the sound of the tile hitting a bamboo. Dogen heard a sound in the dojo and was awakened. The Buddha said in this world, it is not only food that can awaken. Our mind is clear and free of any extraneous thinking. It could be any sound, scent, or any perception. Sutra says, or where the bodhisattvas perform the Buddha's work, or where the Bodhi tree performs the Buddha's work, or where the Buddha's clothing and bedding perform the Buddha's work, or where food performs the Buddha's work, or where groves and pavilions perform the Buddha's work. The people who have vowed to give their life to society, taking in people's pain, giving them everything, serving them in their suffering. And when we see people doing that, even in the when we see all that, even if the seeing of that, we ourselves can be awakened to this possibility. There are people who makes great food, flavors beyond description. We taste their work and we cannot imagine how they can make anything that delicious. We still want to stay alive if there is such delicious things that we haven't yet experienced. Our 97-year-old former abbot at Sogenji was very defiant about this. What made him stay alive? It wasn't about money. It wasn't about having more things. He said, without question, that it is food. This is what gives us the invigoration and the motivation to stay alive. There are those who see the expansive lens of the world and can only think how narrow and tiny our own small desires and ideas when there is such a huge, magnanimous world. Thinking about how huge this galaxy is makes us feel how small we are and much we have to make efforts in our life. People say that Tolstoy's works were his face. That terribly wrinkled face with the sharp, piercing eyes makes it a wonderful face. To encounter such a face can bring forth in us the motivation to stay alive and make great efforts. If our mind is truly aligned, we wake up in the morning and we feel deep intention to work energetically and hard as we can on whatever we are doing. If we get sick, we can't move. We constantly need help to do anything. See the huge gift of being healthy and being able to do everything for ourselves and others in our life. In the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha says, thus shall we think of all this fleeting world, as a star at dawn, a bubble in the stream, a flash of littering in a summer cloud. Empty space preaches the Buddha Dharma. And the Diamond Sutra continues. A flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. Thus shall we think of all this fleeting world. How soon it will all be gone. With this teaching, we realize this is the truth, and actually it's like this. A star at dawn, a bubble in the stream, a flash of lighting in a summer cloud, as if in reflection, as if everything in the reflection will be realized only that. Every phenomena that pulls at us, knowing it is a phenomena, which is what is this that sees? What is this that which is not only a phenomenon? We have to realize how to see clearly that this is a Christian word and not be confused by all of the changing phenomena. Realize the eyes that can see within and beyond. Sutra says, there are other Buddha lands where dreams, phantasmas, shadows, echoes, images in mirrors, the moon, water, mirages, during times of heat, and other metaphors performed in Buddha's work, or where sounds, words, letters perform the Buddha's work, or where a pure Buddha land is serene and silent, where the wordless, the explanationless, the manifestationless, the consciousnessionless, the unconstructed and the unconditioned perform the Buddha's work. Having left Hanazono College, a Japanese university for Buddhists, doing a little bit of priest training, then going to someone's house for a funeral, which includes the traditional great shout. This shout is supposed to help someone reach to the other world. But realizing that there was no essence to this shout, it was only some kind of silly imitation of an idea, only a trying to do such deep functioning. But everyone would just end up laughing at you because there was no essence to it. Ashikaga Yoshimasu asked the tea master Takenojo, "What is the true mind, the deepest center of tea ceremony?" To which he responded with the famous haiku, "Looking over the garden, there are no more colored leaves or bright flowers, only a small hut in the distance. That mind of tea, which is serenity, where there is no longer any flame of anger, any flame of illusion, only that quiet place where there had been brightly moving flowers, there had been colorful fall leaves that now have fallen. Now all of it's gone. All of it was only temporary, nothing to bring pleasure to our eyes. Only a simple hut near the shore, perhaps someone fishing tools outside. Simple scenery with nothing entertaining whatsoever. This simplicity, not being caught by beautiful flowers or colorful leaves, returns our mind to its source. When there is nothing there, we can come to realize a place where we are unmoved by anything. And that is what is being referred to by Takenojo as the center point of tea ceremony. In the world, pursuing wealth and fame, acquiring many treasures, this is also common. But where is the true master when we live like that? Seeing in the way of the Buddha what is actually giving life to all these pursuits. Sutra says, thus Ananda, given the Buddha's deployment of the deportments and their various actions, there is nothing that is not the Buddha work. Ananda, there may occur these 84,000 gateways of affliction of the four maras, which trouble sentient beings. Ananda had said that it was so amazing to be awakened by food, and the Buddha teaches how, if our mind is quiet and aligned, we may be awakened by anything. We have a story about Shariputra Sonja, who was known to be the most wise of the disciples, and Mahagalana Sonja, who had the greatest supernatural powers. Before they met the Buddha, they were walking together in a town. Each of them were already splendid teachers and had together many disciples. As they walked along, they saw someone that amazed them. Asaji Sonja was one of the first 5 arhats of the Buddha. After the Buddha awakened at Bodh Gaya, he decided to walk to nearby Sarnath, where the 5 friends with whom he had formerly praised austerities, but who had rejected him for seeking instead another way. They were there now residing. When he arrived and he taught from his awakening experience, all five of those good friends were awakened and they became his first disciples. One of this group was Asaji, and he was the one who Shariputra encountered that time. Asaji walked leisurely and comfortably. His clothes, even though impoverished, impoverished, were washed and mended. Impressed by his Shariputra and his friends asked him with whom was he training, and he told them that he was awakened through Gautama Siddhartha, and the teaching of the Buddha was of karmic affiliation, that things arise from causes and can cause from cause. They had never heard this teaching, and this Shariputra and Magagalana went and met the Buddha, heard his training, and immediately became disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha. Just be seeing a person who is emanating the spirit of the Dharma or truth can bring one to awakening. Further, the Buddha says that the four maras are obstructions of training, always rising various desires and temptations. They tempt our various senses and steal our motivation, bringing doubt and confusion to our mental processes. We have a hard time continuing. We get confused and deluded about our practice and how to proceed. But the Buddha teaches us to use these destructive spirits to deepen our practice. We are all lumps of desire who don't know when we will die. We are always being deceived. We have to see this clearly and realize the truth that pierces through all of the deceit, through all of the temptation, to not be moved around by these distractions, instead to use all of it to develop the Buddha's wisdom, to put it to use in life and break through completely. These are all various kinds of obstructions and environments we cannot avoid, but this does not mean there are inevitable parts of life. We just think they are real and unavoidable, and this makes us lose our motivation. It is our deep, compassionate vow to liberate all beings, and this can't be done with a concept in just won't work. Our training has to be done with the true passion, commitment, and takes our greatest faith. Then we are not deceived by anything. Our physical body is like a bag of illness and problems, never knowing what will come next. We live in insecurity and then we die. It is in this world that Shakyamuni Buddha uses his wisdom to teach us not to be afraid, to use these desires rather than be afraid of them. We need desires, certain kind of greed, wisdom, and anger. Desire can confuse us, but we have to persevere in reviewing our own behavior and deepening our own wisdom to accomplish our own evolution. We have to see that by using greed, anger, and ignorance in this way for transformation, we can reinvigorate society. We have to make use of our sickness as well, so we can understand others. Only when we are sick, we can become that state of mind and know what others who are sick are really suffering. We all have to die, and that is why we have to use this precious life without wasting a single moment of it. If we could live forever, who would make such efforts? The world does not go into the way we'd like to it. It's full of obstructions, but overcoming those obstructions, we realize this great wisdom. The Buddha teaches not to run away from the problems, we experience. Instead, use the challenges and problems. So the Buddha says that the Bodhisattva who enters this Dharma door experiences neither joy nor pride. Being in the Saha world, everything is ingredients for awakening. And while there are many advanced realms like the land of Shuko, they are not to be envied. Everywhere we go, no matter how wonderful, realize this is not about being joyful or upset, but that the difference is we can polish ourselves. This is what the Buddha says to Ananda. And in this way, all the bodhisattvas of the Shuko world learned from Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni Buddha's way of being is to take each problem as his own and vow to improve the world, to do whatever he can to help people with whatever is necessary to bring them wisdom, to see the value of every human being in the world. There are many lands where people are not abundant in material things and have to live with wisdom and make the efforts needed so they live in those very different worlds. The Buddha says to Ananda here, they merely generate pure minds with regard to the Buddhas, being joyful and respectful toward the unprecedented teaching they encounter. The merits of the Buddhas, the Tathagatas, are universally same, and it is in order to convert sentient beings that they manifest different Buddha lands. Ananda, when you observe the Buddha's countries, the lands are numerous, but space is not. There is only one space. Likewise, when you observe the form bodies of the Buddhas, they are numerous, but their unhindered wisdom is not. The flowers bloom, the birds sing, yet some places are abundant and wealthy, and some are full of garbage and stagnancy. So each area is not the same, but each has its own way and people who make efforts. Those are bodhisattvas. When there is not enough food for everyone, to then gather resources from what there is and make food for those who have no money. In each and every home, there is always some conflict between human beings there. People are insecure. Help them by giving them wisdom. To help them be guided in their conflicts by that wisdom. All areas have difficulty by the vow. And all those difficulties are different, but the vow of all bodhisattvas is one and the same. In various areas, there are doctors and nurses who work, and those who take care of people's psychological problems as well. The form and appearance of these people and their work is different, but all of them are making efforts to save all others. This is the word of Buddha, the Buddha word. Buddha is not all glamorous and lovely, but it does have wisdom for everything. In each place, in each situation, we have to see and work with it. As in opera. In an opera, probably everyone wants to play the role of being a king or being the wealthy one. But someone has to play the thief and the bad guy anyway. Some play the policeman, some play the thief, some play the judge, some play the president of the wealth company, some plays the beggar. And if all of these are not present, then it does not become an opera. So all the different kinds of functioning are present, and humans are the same. After the opera is over, they are all friends and hang out together. This is just like the Buddha's way. We sit in a company, president's chair, and we have to act like a company president, dignified and taking care of business. But then we go home and we have to weed and clean the house and take care of the kids. Even if we are president of a big company, we can't just be a good person at one facet of the life. We can't be just good at one role. To learn the wisdom of all those different roles and then with that wisdom for that role, to use it, go. This is the teaching of the Buddha. In Buddhism, we have to experience the same as when the Buddha was awakened, this deep experience, or else if we don't actualize and experience that same awakening, the Buddha Dharma will fade away. For each person to together realize this truth directly. And for that, we have to clearly work on our unskillful behavior, inside and out. To clarify our state of mind, to purify it in order to return to the true human nature. Because from our dualism, we have to be liberated. To return to that totally honest and clear state of mind without decoration, without deceit, we return to being a clear human. Just as it is taught, the first word is that understanding, such as the koan of Mu from Joshua. We purify and clarify, purify and clarify, purify, clarify. And this state of mind where we are usually so egoistically insecure is let go completely. And we can truly know that same wonder and as the Buddha experienced is this state. As Hakuin experienced when he realized the sound of the morning bell. If we don't experience that great joy and wonder the same as the Buddha did, it can't just be, oh, I already know that, what's the big deal? To only know that mind of dualism and adapting to others becomes melancholy. Maybe you were looking good to others, but lonely and insecure inside. So first, we have to return to the pure, innocent state of mind. Then we don't add on extra ideas and thoughts, but become each thing, each moment, completely. In wonder, we see the stars. In wonder, we look at flowers. The clearer we are, the greater our wonder is. Like the birth cry of a newborn baby. No matter that culture, no matter what country, no matter race, a newborn baby gives a huge, great birth cry. The same all over the world. This is the same as the state of mind of Satori. Like a brand new baby would become the great wonder, the mind of awakening. The very same voice that is the Buddha Dharma. Not some difficult explanation in ideas and words, but the great joy and wonder. But sadly, humans make up dualistic complex explanation and cover up everything with those. Let go of all of those, and then each and every person's own individual functioning can manifest. Satori is always the same for each and every person, the same state of mind, but each person's way of manifesting it is individual. The wisdom and effort is also different for each person. Yet the purified state of mind could only be one and the same, completely at one with all of society. Living in accordance with each moment's circumstances. This is the last word. If the first word was that of purification and clarification, the last word is then manifesting the state of the mind in each moment appropriately. Buddha then said to Ananda, what if he were to understand all of the ways of manifestation for which there are many words, but all of these various names have infinite variety of essence, immeasurable in their essence and wisdom, but they are not able to be expressed as words of any kind. And so they are all called Buddha, for want of any other way to express them. So the word of the Buddha, the wisdom of the Buddha is said to be written in the sutras, 5049, with huge number of words. This is only numbers. There are infinite numbers of words and teachings beyond because the problems and challenges needing teaching never ends. Sutra says, even if all the sentient beings in the Trimega heliocosm were like Ananda, paramount in erudition and retain them mindfully with Dharani, and even if they had lifespans of a kalpa, they would not be able to experience them completely. There is no way to teach all of it to you. Even if one could learn it all without missing a single word that they were taught, it's still not the thing itself. There's no ending to it. When we awaken, there is no limit to our wisdom and manifestation. This is limitlessly widening. As S.I. Zenji has said, "O great mind, this mind we know how immeasurable the height of the sky is, and yet it's all being held in this mind. We know how immeasurable the depth of the earth is, and yet it is all being held in this mind. The sun and the moon which travel in their course across the sky and the light which they radiate, all that is being held in this mind. The four seasons which rotate in their sequence, all of those are held with this great mind, oh, great all-embracing mind. It can't yet be measured, this whole universe. Even with all of those various satellites and things that are going onto the sky, we send them up. We know more and more. We clarify more and more about the whole universe. Just as it is used to be when research of the physical body was just beginning. We can somehow know that sickness is people might become in a lifetime with the knowledge of their heredity and their past and their habits. However, the possibilities are infinite. We can now know those possibilities in a different way, but no matter what we know, no matter what we know, we don't know the mind that knows these things. Ananda addressed the Buddha. From now on, I will not be able to consider myself erudite. Ananda realized how huge this is and said he'd never again be referred to as the foremost of the learned. Even if someone called him that, he would refuse to be called that. And to do this, the Buddha answered. The Buddha told to Ananda, do not become discouraged. Why? I have explained that you are the most erudite among the Shravakas, and I did not say among the Bodhisattvas. But stop, Ananda. The wise should not attempt to evaluate the Bodhisattvas. How could the total depth of the ocean be calculated? All the merits of the Bodhisattvas, meditation, wisdom, dharani, and eloquence are immeasurable. You were called that by me. Don't put yourself down. We see how science has learned so much. To be able to learn deeply, we need our huge ability. If people only do this for their own satisfaction, it cannot grow. Only when we offer all of our efforts for all beings can we match the huge teaching offered us. Ananda is taught not to be caught on your small self. Let go of your views of yourself and realize your whole ability is ever expanding wisdom. You cannot measure this infinite wisdom. Ananda, don't try to fathom the deeds of the bodhisattvas. It's not something which you can understand with your mental ideas. Just like the fragrance of the vast land of Shuko, where you were, and the smell place where Vimalakirti was lying sick, a room which was but a few meters yet held multitudes of bodhisattvas. All of those bodhisattvas and all of their chairs were carried from Vasali to the mango grove and in the palm of the hand of Vimalakirti. Our mind is infinite. We are able to know infinite things. We have a vast ability, and just consider how a whole ocean can be seen and fit into one small eyeball, or a limitless sky. As far as we look, it does not end. Yet it can fit and be seen with our eyes. Do not miss the point that any advanced beings with the sharp seeing that makes it possible to develop a hypothesis that was then proven. We have to let go of our small self to be able to see the huge, unimaginably profound ability of all of these possibilities. Know that we are all able to do the same if we let go of our dualistic thinking and extraneous ideas. This is way that the Buddha taught. At that time, the bodhisattvas who had come from the host of fragrances were held their palms together and addressed the Buddha. Word honored one, when we first saw this land, we generated the concept of its inferiority. Now we are ashamed of ourselves and have abandoned this attitude. Why? The skillful means of the Buddhas are inconceivable. In order to save sentient beings, they manifest different Buddha countries in accordance with the responses of sentient beings. Please, O word honored one, bestow upon us a bit of your Dharma as we return to the other world so that we might remember you. This Sabha world where we live, at first we all thought that an ugly and terrible world it was, but we now regret that. We see that we saw that we way because our minds were ugly. We see that we saw that way because our minds were ugly. We see that we need this work to be able to liberate people. Our way of seeing was lopsided. The Buddha's expedient means are profoundly mysterious. If we have a huge state of mind, we can realize a vast land. We can live in a place of sharpness and clarity. A person who is living only from their own profit will not see such a land. Then the Buddha said to the myriad bodhisattvas, teachings are infinite. Please listen to this. We have a body, it is phenomenal. And things of form will always fade away because they are perishable. There is also an indestructible Dharma. This is the word of Satori. People in every era understand that indestructible is connected to all beings. This word has no fixed form. It is always changing, always changing. We think we have done this and done that, but this is only relevant when we are alive and fades away when we die. The uncompounded, the indestructible is the Satori that does not die. Compounded things are transient, they all will die. don't understand this only mentally. The rain and the sunshine, they help life and not because they feel like it. Oh, it's good day. I think I will work today. The sun and the rain do not feel like that. See the uncompounded within the compound. We have a personal character which dies when we die, but life energy does not die. Humans live best with a wide point of view, polishing themselves and seeing what is needed by all people, developing the character of an excellent person, not just by doing whatever someone feels like. Person may die, but what they have done stays on as a refuge for all people. The deep vow has no form. Our life has a measured time, but while we die, the true nature does not. In the excellent character, we find the uncompounded and its effects do not die. This is the wisdom we are offered. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Desires are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it. We meet in 5 minutes for Zazen introduction.
let's continue on the body position. I forgot yesterday. There's also another possibility to sit on the floor. This is the bench. We don't have this tool here, but do you know how it looks like? Yeah, this is the bench. And the good thing about the bench is that knees and feet can be together, so there's no this displacement and uh, not being aligned, which is kind of many people are very happy on the bench, and it's the only way how they sit. Uh, okay, uh, let's come back to sitting on the cushion. We covered down lower parts of the body. Uh, this. The upper part of the body. It's like Sagan said today, it's very important to keep the spine straight. And that's this, where a lot of awareness and presence is coming from. So many teachers stress this thing, keep the spine straight. And there are a couple tricks to help with that. But maybe first, the most anatomical thing is that if maybe practical thing about keeping the spine straight is that when our body is not aligned, it's leaning in one direction, it's much more difficult to hold the body for longer periods. It's easier to hold the hand like this, having it straight up, than like this. It's because in physics there's like a moment of, of force, and when the weight is farther from the center, you have to just use way more force to hold it, and muscles work harder. So that's why more you are in the center, then less force and less effort you have to use to stay in this position. And a very important part of keeping the spine straight is adjustment of the height of the seat. For me, this sitting is a little too low. I should sit a little higher. Maybe like this. Yeah. But also, another problem that's very frequent is either leaning too much forward with your hips or leaning too much back. I would say forward is more frequent, and there are a couple problems the consequences of this misadjustment here. I would say, show that. When you lean too much forward, your spine goes this direction. To counterbalance that, you have to bend like this. And to counterbalance this, the head goes forward. And very often, when there's a pain or this area, it means that these muscles work very hard. And they are working very hard because head is hanging down and it's farther from the center. So these muscles, they have to balance that. So for me, it was a huge relief when I discovered this, and just tucking a little bit my hips forward and changing this angle helped to straighten the spine and staying more straight. However, we very often don't know that we are leaning in one direction. I was told many times that I'm leaning towards one of the sides, and I completely wasn't aware of it. I thought that I was completely straight. So it's good to get this feedback from someone. Or what I did, sometimes I sat in front of the mirror and just to check if my body is aligned. Because each asymmetry during longer sittings, like Iyengar, the yoga teacher said, there's violence if there's asymmetry in the body. There's violence because, for example, if I do this type of asymmetry, yeah, some muscles has to work harder. Some parts of the body are more squeezed, overextending. So there is some harm happening in the body, and we want to avoid it. Yes.
You said about
Leaning forward. Yeah.
leaning forward, but what about? I know some people who are sitting like this,
A
like
little far. Yeah. So this creates almost the same problem. Yeah, you can just try to lean a little bit too much far and try to sit at longer time. So your muscles here, core muscles, has to work very hard, and you have to counterbalance that with your head going forward. So that's also closing the chest, and it's not helpful. And your second covers a lot about chest area and its physiology. So it doesn't help with breathing, internal organs. Yeah. So it's similar story. So going out of the being straight, it creates the necessity for the upper parts to counterbalance, and that causes your closing some parts of the body.
And all it starts with the direction of the pelvis.
Yes.
So all it starts here. If you are leaning too much forward, that means you must sit a little bit lower. If you are leaning too much backwards, it means that you must sit a little bit higher. And you must just adjust the cushion to your physiology. All of us have different how do you call it?
Volume of the
volume of legs. So, and everyone has different flexibility. For example, someone may not have problems with sitting in full lotus, but he may problems in touching the hands with the ground. So it's all about our individual physiology. But all starts here. If you set your buttocks in proper way and give the pelvis proper angle, then you will not even see, you will feel comfortable. You will feel straightened, but at the same time supported and relaxed. The same, I think, is with chairs.
Yes.
The angle makes big differences, and also the position of legs. It may also change the way do you lean backwards or forwards.
Yeah. Another thing that helped me on the cushion is also how deep on the cushion I was sitting on. So going farther from the edge, it creates this tendency to lean that direction. Going closer to the edge with only the sitting bones, it will create tendency towards that. So this is another possibility to control this angle. But the best is to experiment a little bit. And my feeling is when I work with some people is that we are not aware that we are doing this higher lordosis, and we kind of feel, oh, that's straight. And my encouragement is try to go a little bit on that side and see how it feels if you can build more straightness. This position, especially tucking a little farther, it creates something that's in yoga called Mula Bandha. Mula Bandha means Bandha in Sanskrit is lock. Mula is root. So it's like a lock that kind of helps you to anchor your position. And we have the second bandha here, which is Uddiyana bandha, and the third Jalatara bandha, but in Zazen it's not so important. It's kind of just in case, the Mula bandha and Uddiyana bandha, they create this space here in the body, and we also have this vastness, and especially in the area of tandem, it's very important because that we know from yoga that kind of our weight center of our body is generally here. Also, another thing in this practice we want to go from the head to the body. So if we identify ourselves with body generally, so we usually think that we are in the head, where we would locate an where I am in my body. We usually in our culture are acting and thinking and from the head, and lowering the point, the center of I-ness to area more or less it's called 3 fingers below the belly button. Yeah, it changes a lot. And also physiologically now this area is also a very interesting area because there are intestines, and intestines are I would say responsible for our energy source. So when depends on what we eat and what our intestines are, what are in the condition, we feel more energetic or less energetic.
What are intestines in Poland?
Jelita.
And also, my physiologist told us what I called tandem muscles or lower or abdomen muscles. He got some Latin name and he called it heaters.
Heaters.
So
Yeah.
that's why when we are going to Japan for the Hatsu session, if you cannot breathe by this lower abdomen muscles, you will not survive, because there are sometimes temperatures below zero, and you must stay there with shaved head, with naked toes, naked foot, and naked hands, palms. So it's quite cold. You must find the place which is always in some kind of heat, and it drives you to go and breathe by lower abdomen.
The hands position, actually in Zen, there's one hands position, and it's called cosmic mudra. And the left hand goes on top of the right hand, and knuckles meet each other, and toes, the tip of the toes, thumbs, they touch each other. And for me, it's a great diagnostic tool. And it's a great diagnostic tool whether I'm present or not, what's going on with my energy level. And if people are tense, or when I'm tense, the thumbs will go like that. When I'm sleepy, I have lacking energy, it goes like that. So just this and coming back to this, okay, is you can check your energy level. Generally, all these position alignments are diagnostic tools. So there's so many alignments, and many teachers have chosen, for example, she starts practicing sitting from like body scan and position scan. And it happened to me that I was able to kind of refine my position whole rounds. And it was really a great like practice anchor, just being in the body and checking, oh, here I'm not present. Because whenever you see, oh, like I have some tendency to do something like this with my hands. Oh, no, I'm not present. I have to come back to this. And this is the feedback for us. What's our state of the mind? And we've got line and all these details. And this is the same with all forms actually in Zen. So they're kind of like very sensitive diagnostic tool.
Sometimes on the altar there is not only Enso, we also know the Buddha. And the Buddha is sitting with proper position. And this Buddha may be an instruction of all the details and all of the practice. That's why in Soto it is said that the practice is an enlightenment, because from the manifestation of open awakened state of mind arises and radiates proper position, proper sitting, proper alignment, and that alignment is visible from outside. So while making the correction and observing those alignments from detail to detail in your body, it's also a way of practice of adjusting your state of mind by your body.
Yeah. Another thing important to keep in your hands is that these hands should be more or less these 3 fingers below navel, and very often they go lower because it's easier. And the consequence of it is the arms go lower. They pull your arms back, and some people to work with it, they put something here to raise them, and that helps your arms to straighten up. I haven't seen this problem here, but very often also what happens, people have tendency in Zen to put shoulders on the neck, and that hurts neck, and especially this, yeah, it can happen. So whenever you're helping some other people with the position, yeah, it's worth to keep the eye on it if they have this like this. To solve the problem of shoulders on the neck, my yoga instruction, she gives me instruction. It's all over shoulder blades. So pull your shoulder blades down and to the spine. And this movement, it creates very nice opening in the chest. But we also have to remember that our chest is not only front, it's also back. So we also don't want to do something like this. Yeah. But we want vastness in the front, vastness in the back. The position of the head and eyes. So head should be slightly leaning down, or maybe not. Head stays straight, eyes goes a little down. And there are different instructions, different transitions. In Zen, there's instruction to keep eyes open. In Chan, for example, when I attended the retreat, the instruction was to keep them closed. So, yeah, I would say try to practice maybe what we are practicing here. When you practice on your own, just check what works better for you.
I think with different teachers are different techniques. With my teacher, you should have eyes open, and it seems sometimes that people are having eyes closed because just look, when I'm looking in front, I've got my eyes open, but when I will move them down, I've got, sometimes it's looking like I have them closed. But the way is to the place where you are looking really doesn't matter. What really matters is to find the position for our eyes that will not cause attention in eyes. I see that in many beginners, people just try to push and continue the concentration on breathing on or counting the breaths or on mukha very intensely, and you can see that they have got even the higher pressure and tension in eyes. So if you keep them relaxed, they will naturally find their position and not give tension to your upper part and your head. You must go with the attention and your awareness to your lower body.
Yes, so yes.
I also have a question about the mudra.
Mhm.
I saw someone sits like this, and someone sits something like this. I would also like to know
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does this? What does
So,
this do?
so this set is probably from Hindu tradition, and um, in yoga, and this is I forgot the name of this, but yeah, this is a good for pranayamas, for example. You know, so different traditions, they have their own ways of doing things. Um, and I suppose, when you do this, for example, it helps the chest to be more open. And I sometimes, when I do it on my own, I sit like this to help my, shoulder blades to move back, because this is more difficult, and especially when in pain. Uh, I suppose that we want this because this helps us to be more in center, and also how we align our body, it affects our state of the mind. So in sitting like this, as an exercise, you can try to do Zazen, but like this, for example. Yeah, it will bring the different quality to this process. Yeah, or laying on the side. So you can also experiment, and just check how the Zazen is different when you have hands like that and one like this. This kind of, we are more condensed. Um, in Soto temples, very often there's instruction that whenever you walk in shashu. Shashu is this this position of hands. However, in Soto Zen shashu, yeah, it's like this. Yeah, hands on the chest. So however, in Soto shashu looks like this. Yeah, but here we do this.
It's the same because what matters is the neurological connections. If you are right-handed, then your left part of the brain is more connected to your dualistic thinking, and your left side is more connected to your intuitive way of perceiving and doing. So to go beyond our dualistic thinking and calm more our thoughts and our emotion, we just cover the right hand, which is usually in the main hand of people of acting, of doing things, with left hand, which is usually not used by us. And in that way, we are motivating, stimulating our nervous system to go this intuitive part. So when in Shashu you hold like that, what you are really doing, you are keeping your, again, left hand like dominated. But if you do like this, with that hand holding, it's also dominating because you feel the warmth and more sensations in that fist.
Yeah, and just being to the center is a completely different experience than walking, like this.
I wonder, Dokyo, because you are left-handed.
But I mean,
have you ever tried changing hands?
I haven't.
I remember when I was just experimenting more with position with my body, and I was doing not this but like that. I was changing because when you change, when I have legs like this, it's comfortable for me. It's also the position of hands is from the full lotus. They should be just here, and you see if you just make the cosmic mudra, it is on the level of your lower abdomen, and that point that you touch slightly, it even more defines where is your center, because you can feel it as only point that is really strongly visible in your body. But when you are changing legs, you see, it's like not natural to put it like that. So I was trying to put it like that instead, because then the upper leg is supporting my hand. And I had the sensation that I was more in thoughts. It was really harder for me to not go into sleepiness connected to the thoughts and the pictures that my mind was creating.
In yoga, when we do exercises on the right side, they stimulate. When we do exercises on the left side, they should be calming down. That's my teacher said. coming back to the Cosmic Mudra, I noticed that for me, that something really works pretty nice is when I make this effort to hold it. And I have to work with my muscles harder, but it's really very beneficial if I'm not lazy enough to hold it, because it kind of stimulates my muscles around my spine to just raise my whole chest. I'm holding it not with my shoulders, but just by rising with all my trunk. So that and I noticed that when I do it, I really have better feeling of this Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha, and also my breathing is much fuller, and so it changes something in my physiognomy. Coming back to eyes,
Sorry, but if you are having problems, I also was experimenting with holding, and at some point the body just adaptates, and it holds this hand like it's not you holding; it's just holding by itself. But I think that maybe it's for some people, the easiest way is just to take one cushion. Could you give me one cushion? The smaller one. Yeah, and just a support. It's and you are completely relaxed, completely, and it's like perfectly matching. And many people does it, and I think it's the best way. Also, sitting on a chair, it might be useful.
Yes.
To not go with closing your chest, because just if you sit properly, it's open and there is the space for air. So again, more oxygen is going to your body, and then you just feel more energetic because you are giving more oxygen with every breath.
Coming back to eyes, eyes also a good diagnostic tool, whether we are thinking or not, and it's pretty visible if someone thinks, because when we think, usually we move eyes, especially when we imagine. I did this research, this eye tracking devices, and when seeing is not only the image on the retina, seeing is also the movement of the eye, and usually the eye kind of does saccadic movements, saccadic like jumping movement, fast movements on the edge of the object. So we see things with the pattern also of how our eyes move. And when we think about objects, our eyes repeat these patterns. So we don't have to see this object, we can also think about this. So when we think, our eyes jump. They also jump during the sleep when we have dreams. And it also works the other way. So when we move eyes, it triggers thoughts. So that's why the instruction is to gaze in one point, but this is a self-gazing. We don't look at something, it's rather we look through. Another thing regarding eyes is that how high you look, how low, it can control the level of energy. So if you are very excited or lowering down your side, because your energy level goes down and goes more towards the focus. And when you are sleepy, moving your eyes up higher, it will add you more energy.
Like a level of stimulation.
Yeah. So it's something you can also use as a tool, especially when you're very sleepy and falling asleep. So the head should be straight, because when you move head out of the axle, and these muscles will hurt. So head should be in the line. Eyes are the thing we can control. Okay, let's talk about the chair. So in chair, everything is similar, but Yeah, I've noticed a couple of things about the chair. So the first thing, it's really nice when I have a chair that has a slight roundness here, because what hurts the butt the most is when there's a kind of rough edge, and I'm sure it's visible, something soft and puffy. And so it goes, if there's rough edge, it goes, and this in the moment kind of butt hurts. The problem with the chair is that here we have pretty high surface that's touching the ground. And when sitting on a chair, the surface is small. So very often people who sit on a chair complain that the butt just hurts. Especially when, and the most hurting parts are, when there's this sudden edge or something uneven. Chairs I'm avoiding the most are the chairs that have the frame around and something soft here, because this edge, yeah. So, and usually I put something soft on the chair, and I have this type of cushion. It's or, you can put on an office chair. People do very often, and that works for me. But everyone has his or her own ways of doing things, and and I have also numbered, so it seems to pretty a lot. But I also add this one in this setup, and there's only one reason for that. This chair is just too low for me. So when I sit like this, yeah, my knees are below my hips. Otherwise, I would have higher, and the same situation as on the cushion. I would just have to work harder, and when legs are higher, there's this tendency to bend back, yeah, and we have the same story with the upper spine, that it has to compensate that. But this is not the most fortunate thing, because it's pretty high and it's not so stable. And this is actually the main problem of chairs, that first of all, not all chairs are stable. Some are rocky, but also being higher, and especially when someone is building a tower like me, this position is not so stable. So I don't feel well grounded in it, and that definitely affects my state of mind, because when I have to balance all the time, when body is the move, mind is the move. That's Kwon Roshi something said to me like this. So it's really the best to do whatever we can to stabilize. Yeah, those are possibilities I have here. But also other thing, about choosing and picking a little bit. All this thing is not about comfort. It's not the goal. Comfort is not the goal. The goal is create the situation that we are not stimulated. And sometimes, just, I want to tune it now. It's more stimulation than just sitting with whatever we have. So there's a point when we have to accept that's okay. We will never have the perfect situation, and just work with that, whatever you have. So everyone has to find his own sweet spot and not overdo things, because I've been showing a lot of details and encouraged to just work, make it your own practice. It's not that okay. But since I'm so detailed on things, legs when sitting on the chair, so that's very important to keep feet on the floor. Things like that on the chair. Yeah, it's not helpful, because we are losing the stability. The thing that works for me the best, knees in the distance of hips, the angle 90 degrees, feet, that's from yoga actually, external edges parallel to each other. Another thing which is difficult for me, but that's really interesting, the weight on the foot. It's not visible on the camera. The weight on the foot, the same inside and outside, and more or less there are 4 points of support. More or less here, this edge and this edge outside, and heel inside and outside. And I have tendency to put more weight on outside edges, and I'm losing the stability. So this is also a good kind of mindfulness practice for me to keep this alignment. And also, I feel like, I'm able to kind of stabilize my position. I've noticed that sitting on the chair makes these muscles, triceps, very tense, and it's probably because I kind of try to stabilize myself and they kind of work here, but I'm not sure if I can do anything about this position. And all the rest is exactly the same. All the rest is exactly the same. So not worth talking too much about it.
One thing that I'm noticing, so I have 2 artificial knees, and that's why I can't sit on the floor now, because I can't bend my knees comfortably at all. But because I'm tired on this schedule, and I'm falling asleep quite a bit, this is pretty unstable. Mm-hmm. And you can fall asleep in a full lotus and you don't fall over. Mm-hmm. But there have been a couple times you've probably seen me, where I'm starting to go, and then my whole body kind of lurches when I catch myself, and that's new in my experience. So that's a challenge with sitting in the chair, and for sure, it feels less grounded. The mind is more drifty sitting in the chair than when I used to be able to sit on the floor.
When I switched from the cushion to the chair, it's like I skipped one level that is needed, I guess. I went from physical terrible suffering to relaxed and sleepiness all the time. Mm-hmm. So I'm very grateful for this discussion. I'll keep on finding because in Vipassana it wasn't discussed much. It's like hundreds of people, and the teacher's role is not to teach. The teacher's role is to control that everything happens as recorded in Goenka's presence when he was with us. And later in mindfulness, it's so in BSR and mindfulness modern approach, it's so relaxed, like not much discussed at all. Like find what works for you. Suggested you can meditate laying down, and that's how you can hear in 2 minutes people snoring. And this was very beneficial for me to encourage me keep on experimenting, not stick to something. I used to sit like this for 6 years, and this worked for me the same way as this to be mindful of position of my fingers. If I find the fingers I'm not touching, then I'm losing. But also, when I'm tired, I tend to put pressure on it, and that's how it caused me a lot of problems with my shoulders and my neck. And as my knee was operated, so I have multiple problems here and there, and looking for my personal what works for me, but keeping in mind this. It's a good suggestion.
The pain in the shoulders and here can come from 2 things. One, this moving up, and the same head going down. So that's something.
This position, this position of hands is like simplified this position, but you just keep your finger here, and in the same way it stimulates the nervous system of intuition. Sometimes it's easier just to not. Oh, you are not always, fully built, and different things always happen. There are not two the same settings. So sometimes it's just good to change for a while and then go back. It's not bad to change.
It's great to have an option because sometimes there's no time to be on your own. And you have to meditate in presence of people. It's okay to close eyes, but sitting like this already brings too much attention.
Yeah.
Nobody cares if you just
Sit like that. And
dreaming, like went to the short sleep. But yeah, it's good to have the option of that.
that's what I do very often. Yes.
I wanted to say something to Kurt. In Lviv Sangha, we call this falling sleeping sensation. I don't know the word in English. It's like a bite of the bird when he does this. And there's a word in Ukrainian language, kluat. Yeah. So when somebody's doing that, we say
Like a chicken,
you
you
didn't sleep well, so you're
Oh, that's
Kluyesh.
funny. Yeah, that's good.
But after you have this like a deep one,
It's a full
Then-
awakening.
yeah,
Yeah.
something I don't know, some hormones. I sometimes when I'm sleepy and I feel this stuff, and when I almost fall, then I feel the rush, something in the blood, and then I'm like I drink coffee.
Because it's also waking up. Yeah, because you're falling asleep, waking up, and there's one waking up. So it's micro sleep. Yeah. Couple things to cover with sitting more. Usually, we keep our foot, hands, and head uncovered, and it's because these places are full of receptors. So if we cover them, it's like sleeping sitting in a plastic bag. So it's like with the bag on the head, So it's very often very uncomfortable, especially for people like me who have some kind of Raynaud syndromes and things like that. But that's what's encouraged in many places and required that we all do that. Also, there's another practical reason for this. In the monastery, we want everyone to do and look exactly the same. We don't want anyone to stick out in any way. It creates this kind of feeling of one body, and we work with kind of like this tendency to build this individualness. It is more about like dissolving within the group. Say something more about it.
Well, sometimes I use that and keep my hands under the rakusu because I have different times while sitting, and sometimes I'm working more with my breathing, and then I'm keeping my hands closer so that in more intensive way I can be concentrated on my tandem. So I'm doing that only to support that. And it's as Bobek, as Kakushin said, usually in our Sangha, there is a rule that you should keep your hands outside. But it's also, how is with the rules. It's good to keep them, but we are also free, and sometimes it's also good to break them. So, for example, many times I was sitting like that near the Roshi, for example, and he never told me to do differently because he didn't want to disturb my practice. And many times when there was new people, who was going with Keisaku, when they saw that I'm sitting like that, they always asked me to put my hands outside.
Yeah.
There is one important thing for people with rakusu. Most people go with rakusu and tie it here. And usually, what makes people back suffering is this too much tight rakusu, which when you put your hands on that, I will just and it's subtle, but it is. So it's important to, when you tie the rakusu on your hakama, just keep it loosened here and always make it like it's not holding you leaning forward. So this is also why I do not tie rakusu, and there is a lot of problems with that because it's always on the wind, but it makes my upper body not limited by this.
It's good to know all these things because there are these subtle differences between Rinzai and Soto Zen. In Soto Zen, there's a form that we actually cover hands under. We don't put hands on the racks. Yeah, so there are this subtle. So I even didn't know that.
Yeah, but my name is Seigen, and Seigen is from Seigen Yoshi, which was the disciple of Sixth Patriarch, and he was the founder of Soto. And I really identify with Soto school, Soto way of training, even among Rinzai people. And in my school, under the Roshi Shodo Harada, I'm training more like Soto style. And it's like from inside, not from. When I hear more about Soto, it was like naturally coming from.
So in different schools, different temples, different teachers, they set different forms they feel that they work the best. It's important to try to be as much as possible in align with the rules of the concrete place of the practice, and it's because we don't want to stick out, and it's even not about working with our ego. It's also when someone sticks out, it attracts attention and is a distraction for others people. And this practice is a group work. We don't work on ourselves it's when when I'm going through something that disturbs all of you, and when I'm going through something and you all help me to work with it, and it becomes way more and more visible more I practice this. The last and probably the most important thing regarding the position, the position itself, Zazen position, is a very strong tool that creates this process we're interested in. That something I said in the beginning yesterday, that why are we here? It's here to help our mind to clean itself. So just sitting in Zazen position, it really starts this process. However, we can do something more because this body, but we of course can let the mind do whatever it does. Usually for me, it's like, oh, what should I eat for supper? What do I need to buy? Someone wrote me email. What should I? Yeah, so the head is working, and my experience is that just sitting, even if the head is working and not doing any practices, it makes this thoughts to fade away. But it's way more efficient and it's faster if I do some practices. And usually in most places I visited, the instruction is for beginners to do breath counting as the simplest practice. In Soto, the main practice is shikantaza, which is just being, just sitting. It means just sitting.
But I think also shikantaza nowadays is really deformed. Because if you look at the Hyakujo Kaizenji, it is written exactly that you must sit in full lotus. So, and another way This is the very narrow way of looking. Shikantaza is just sitting in full lotus. And very wide way is the description that Roshi Shodoharada once taught when someone asked him about Shikantaza. What is Shikantaza? And Roshi said, it's never leaving the monastery. And never leaving the monastery is a metaphor of always be in the center, be present, and always keep precepts, behave always like you'd been in monastery. So you see how is the one edge and another edge. And now people, when I hear at YouTube, they like to say that they are sitting Shikantaza, but they are just sitting and thinking about something, and it's not Shikantaza. Or in Shikantaza, there is no place for thoughts.
But if you let the mind do whatever, it will do what the habit is.
Yeah.
So how is it a practice if you don't have
That's why I said the last sentence that Shikantaza is where there is no thoughts in your mind. If there are thoughts in your mind and you are just being with yourself and your emotion, it's not the practice.
Does it mean that this practice can be done only at some point when your mind is kind of stable? And
that's why this position was so important. If you sit for a half an hour in full lotus, you will understand what it is, and then extending these periods will put you in such big concentration that even in some koans it is called lotus in the fire, and it's not a metaphor.
Mm-hmm. So it's like through observing pain.
It's not pain, but it's very intensive.
Mm-hmm.
Through
Intensive experience.
Yeah, very useful to have a teacher around and talking to the teacher and discussing the practice with the teacher, because we don't see ourselves very well. And the teacher, especially who is experienced one, can give us the practice that is right for us at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So probably this is the most important. My experience with teachers is that they never say start with Shikantaza.
Mm-hmm.
They never say. Most of them, I don't know, maybe 10 different teachers who I was in working with during some retreats, they said start with something like something to build samadhi, something to build focus. So breath counting, focusing on the sound, body scan, something that you can practice your ability to be focused. Because if your intention, if you are not able to focus on one thing, your attention will have tendency to jump. So when you don't have object to focus on, it's very hard to stay in this vast openness, which is Shikantaza. It's just daydreaming for me if I do it without building up this focus. So many teachers, for example, Zazen, she always does body scan very often, or has some kind of practices to build this. And myself in the session, when I'm in the session, so a couple of first days I just count breaths, and that's my practice. And later I kind of examine, am I ready for just open, just letting it go and opening. Am I able to stay present? Then I do it. And sometimes, there are situations when I say, oh no, I have to come back to counting the breaths because my mind is just escaping too much. And I also noticed that something that it's my experience. It's also something okay to let my mind to wander around, not being too strict to myself, because the strictness also creates some kind of tensions. So it's okay. This happens, and learning from it. It's like, oh, how did it happen? And being curious about this. My time is over.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So probably, tomorrow I will say more about this techniques like breath counting, just to give instruction to one. And it's usually something when you get to the monastery or to the practice place, this practice is given to everyone as a beginning practice. Okay. Thank you.
We may continue without break, I think. Kurt?
Okay.
In the schedule, there's Zazen after lunch. And if we didn't change it, so we are doing the same thing that happened yesterday. So we are losing this hour.
Yeah. And I think it might be good to have some, if we miss the Zazen, which the schedule says, I think it's after lunch.
Yeah.
Maybe we do that now so that we're not talking too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but also yesterday was quite good to sit some long hours in the evening. You know, this is really your. You will have talkings because now you will be talking.
Yeah.
We don't have to. We how do you think?
Well,
We can move this hour to the evening. For me, it was okay to sit some more because we were prepared during the day. We will not jump so much.
Yeah.
Both is fine for me.
Or maybe, Kurt, you could guide us.
Yeah, sure.
The practice.
I think that's or something.
Gonna work.
Yeah.
Let's
When
move a
you will
little
be speaking, please be close to the camera.
Be close to the microphone.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'll adjust the position.
okay.
So not everyone
All right.
will be.
Well, I'll keep it kind of short, my introduction. It was interesting. So I talked about the body scan a little bit yesterday. That it's in mindfulness-based stress reduction is the first practice that you're given, and for the first 2 weeks, 2 full weeks, it's the practice. So sitting meditation is hardly even introduced in the first 2 weeks, and that's because there is, for the average person, such an absence of body awareness. We're so caught up in distraction and mental activity and worry and working, and that in the Western culture especially. But it's interesting that you mentioned, Dobek, that Chosen uses the body scan, and I've noticed that the language of secular mindfulness, including the body scan and the forms of kind of the languaging of instruction for meditation, has found its way into the Buddhist world quite a bit. In Vipassana meditation retreats now, it almost sounds like the ones I've been to. It sounds like an MBSR class, the Dharma talks. So that, which has its maybe downsides, but and then I had my first free diving lesson in Warsaw on the way here, and because this is something that
You will be having second if you want on the way back. Just tell me, I got still 4 days to buy you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, so that was an experience for me because it's my first time with anything like free diving. And in the lesson I had before getting in the pool, I lay down on a mat after being instructed about breathing techniques and how the breath works in different parts of the breath. And then there was a timer, and I was asked to kind of relax and then take a breath and then hold the breath. And then what the instructor did is he led me in a little body scan. So as a way to kind of keep the mind relaxed, and keep the body relaxed in particular while I was doing that. So the body scan is it's found its way into many parts of popular culture now, as has other aspects of the mindfulness training. So I'll lead us in maybe a half hour of body scan as I might in an MBSR class. What I would say, a couple things about it is that it's not necessarily easy or supposed to be easy. It's not like this is going to be a really relaxing experience. It might be, but especially like working with veterans at the VA hospital in Seattle, which I did teaching MBSR for 10, 12 years, where there's a lot of PTSD and then other forms of trauma work now. People who are dealing with trauma as is so pervasive in Ukraine now. It might be very difficult to ask someone, or unrealistic to ask someone to lie down on the floor and be still and then try to take them through a body scan. So it's really important to know something about who it is you're working with. And I will usually say before the first body scan, if there's anxiety, if you have trauma in your life in some way, or if you have anxiety about what this might be like, you might want to position yourself next to the door. And if you need to get up to step outside, feel free to do that. So there's always this kind of giving permission. And this is very much not the case in like Zazen, as I've experienced it, where you do it. You sit through the golden hour, come hell or high water, and you do not move. Even if you're screaming in pain. So there's that.
In Japanese, maybe traditional.
Yeah. It's definitely that way at Tahoma. So this goes the other direction, and there's always an invitation to adjust your position, or to if you need to even leave the room for a few minutes. And that's different, I think, from certainly traditional Asian practice traditions. So there's different ways of positioning yourself. Usually in an MBSR class, you lie down on the floor, and we could use those mats. It may be that since we haven't had a lot of sleep, that there will be a strong tendency to go to sleep, and that's okay too. A couple of other options you can use besides lying all the way down on a mat. One is to sit, and so if you like, you can sit in a chair. Another position you could consider is it's called the astronaut position, where you're lying on your back but with your legs up like this. So that would be an option as well. So decide which position you want to use, and lie down or sit, and we'll do a body scan. And then when we're done, as we would in the class, we'll have at least a short time when we can talk about the experience and share a bit about our response to this. I'm going to sit in a chair just because I don't want to fall asleep while I'm giving instructions. So, similar, if you're lying on the floor, similar to just the basic lying down position in yoga. Lying with your feet spread apart, falling apart, hands alongside your body, and taking a few moments to sort of arrive in this position. So, bringing attention to the whole body lying here. And as we've done in some of my guided sitting practices and in the Qigong, taking a moment to scan the body as a whole to notice any places, points of tension in the body, tightness, seeing if you can soften, let go of some of that tension, just letting it drain into the floor. Finding the breath in the body, and for maybe 3 breaths, long, gentle inhalation, and with the exhalation, seeing with each exhalation if you can release into the floor, sort of like melting into the floor, that sensation. And since we're all a little bit sleep deprived, you may find yourself drifting off to sleep. And that's not necessarily a problem. If you do fall asleep, then when you come back, when you come to or wake up, just pick up right where I am in the body scan at that point. So I'm going to give instructions to, as best you can, place your attention in different, very specific parts of the body. And seeing if you can pick up any sensations from each part of the body as I sort of invite your attention to go there. And it may be very subtle. There may be parts of the body where you just don't notice any sensations at all. But as best you can, just tuning to that part of the body. And we'll start by placing attention in the left foot, specifically the left toes. And seeing if you notice any sensations in this moment in that part of the body. You can even scan from the big toe to the small toe. It might be heat or coolness. It might be tingling. It might be pressure. And then shifting attention to the sole, the bottom of the left foot. Seeing if you notice any sensations there. And then the top of the left foot. And as we go through the body, the sensations may vary from very subtle to really prominent, easy to pick up on, and it may vary from pleasant to neutral to unpleasant in the quality of the sensation. Just noticing what it is. And then shifting attention to the left heel area. Perhaps noticing the sense of weight, pressure in that part of the foot. Shifting to the left ankle area, noticing sensations there. And then the left shin and calf area. So tuning in that part of the body in a very precise way, seeing if you notice any sensations there. Then shifting attention to the left knee area. Then we'll move our attention up to the left thigh. Kind of scanning that part of the body with attention, with your attention, and it could be down deep in the muscle or the skin surface area. Just noticing any sensations that you find there in this moment. And then letting go of the left leg and shifting attention, will start again in the right foot and the right toes. So really placing your attention right there with your right toes, noticing sensations in this moment that you can pick up on there. And then shifting to the bottom of the right foot. And the top of the right foot. And then just touching in with awareness the right heel of the right foot, noticing any sensations in that part of the body in this moment. And then moving up the right leg, starting with the ankle area. And then touching in with awareness the right shin and calf muscle area between the ankle and the knee. Then on up, releasing that part of the body and placing attention in the right knee. You might notice that the mind wants to wander away, probably will and is wandering away at different times, as the mind just typically will do. And that there might be judgments. I like this, or I don't like this, or this makes sense, or this doesn't make sense, or this is boring, or whatever. Just noticing the mind kind of with its opinions also. The mind just doing what the mind does. And when we get carried away and notice we've been carried away, then we just choose to direct ourselves back, in this case, starting fresh with the right knee. Or there may be stories about different parts of the body, pleasant or unpleasant stories. Maybe there's been knee injuries and there's pain in the knee. So all the stories that go with that might come into play. But for now, just seeing if you can feel the bare sensations in the right knee in this moment. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And then shifting attention up to the right thigh area once again. Tuning in any sensations there. And then releasing the leg, placing attention in the crotch area. Reproductive organs. And placing attention for a moment in the hip joints. Noticing the part of the body where the leg bones connect to the hips. Then shifting attention to the buttocks area. Noticing sensations there, probably the sensation of weight and pressure with the body bearing down into the floor through that part of the body. And then the lower belly, organs of elimination. Just tuning in any sensations there. Further up in the middle of the stomach area, organs of digestion. Noticing any sensations in that part of the body in this moment. And then around into the lower back area, an area that often carries tension or discomfort, tightness. And if there's some part of the body that is experiencing discomfort and pulls the attention toward it, as best you can, just relaxing the muscles in the area around that area of discomfort. Releasing and bringing attention back, in this case, to the lower back area. And then shifting attention up to the middle of the back of the rib cage. Tuning in sensations and very specifically in that part of the body. Noticing the quality of the sensations. Subtle or prominent, pleasant and unpleasant, or neutral. Without judgment about what the quality of the sensations are, just noticing them. And then shifting attention around into the chest area for a few moments. The organs of respiration and blood circulation, the heart area. And if you notice in the placing of attention in a particular area that there's tightness or tension, then you can work with that. Maybe there's a way you can soften or release some of the tension. Or if there's discomfort, soften around the discomfort. Release a little bit into it, not fighting it, just allowing it to be there. And shifting attention now into both shoulders. The shoulder area and the shoulder blades. Noticing sensations there. And again, if there's some tension or tightness that often will kind of get stuck in that part of the body, seeing if it can release a little bit, just release a bit. Let that tension melt away just for now. And then shifting attention down the left arm into the left bicep area, the upper arm of the left arm, placing attention there. Noticing any sensations you find there in this moment. Then shifting down into the left elbow area. Just putting your attention right there just for now, seeing what you find in the way of sensations that maybe you wouldn't normally even notice. But there they are. There actually maybe are sensations there. And the body is always communicating with us if we're listening. And sometimes very, very important communications that we ignore at our peril at times. So then this could be seen as a way of befriending, reestablishing friendship with the body as a very, very intelligent part of our living wholeness. Then shifting attention to the forearm of the left arm, between the elbow and the hand, tuning in that part of the body. And then down to the left wrist area. And the left hand, the palm of the left hand. Perhaps there's some subtle heat in that part of the body, or some tingling. The back of the left hand. And the left fingers, maybe moving from the thumb down through the fingers, each one. Noticing the position of the hand, what it's resting on. Then shifting attention to the right hand. Again, starting with the fingers. And the top of the right hand. The palm of the right hand. Again, noticing its position, what the hand is laying on, what it feels like for that hand to be laying there right now. Perhaps allowing a moment of gratitude for what an extraordinary gift our hands are. And the ability to create, to make things. how miraculous each part of the human body truly is. And yet we rarely think about what a gift every single part of the body is to our life. And then shifting attention now up to the right wrist, so moving up the right arm a little bit, tuning in that part of the body. And the forearm, the area between the wrist and the elbow of the right arm, tuning in that part of the body. Then placing attention in the right elbow for a moment, tuning in that part of the body. Any sensations you find there. The right biceps, the area between the elbow and the shoulder on the right arm, tuning in that part of the body. And then shifting up to the right shoulder. Noticing if this is easy or hard, pleasant or unpleasant, this process. Allowing it again just to be what it is. And then bringing attention across the shoulder blades and up to the neck area. And tuning in the neck. Another part of the body where we often hold a lot of tension, stiffness. Seeing if we can tune in sensations there, perhaps soften a little bit, release any tension that might be present there. And then shifting attention to the region of the face, starting with the chin area, the jawbones, another place that we often hold tension without even realizing it. Feeling into the jawbone area. Placing attention in the mouth area, the lips and teeth, tongue, the roof of the mouth. Then the cheek area, tuning in both cheeks. Placing attention in the nose and nostrils. Perhaps noticing the sensation of living air flowing in through the nostrils, into the body. The air that is literally the breath of life for each of us in this moment, without which very quickly we would die. Each breath, the breath of life, a miracle. Profound, profound gift. So easy to forget how miraculous each moment of our life actually is. And shifting attention to the region of the eyes, the eyelids, the eyeballs, the eyebrows, the muscles in the area around the eyes. Shifting attention to the forehead area, tuning in that part of the body in this moment. And then attention in both ears, the sides of the head, and the back of the head. So again, noticing the points of contact between the head and the floor, the sensation of weight with the head bearing into the floor. Any other sensations you find there. And then the top of the head, the scalp area. Tuning in that part of the body. And then when you're ready for it, expanding the scope of awareness to include, once again, the whole body lying here. Noticing whatever sensations feel prominent at any point in the body. Perhaps again, allowing a moment of gratitude for the inexpressible privilege of being alive in a human body. With all our problems and all of our challenges and all of our questions, still, just to be here alive in a human body, how extraordinary. No moment to be taken for granted. And noticing how it is in your heart right now, the climate of your heart as we bring this body scan to a close, whether this was easy or hard, pleasant or unpleasant, to offer yourself some thanks for caring enough to participate in this practice, for being curious enough to take a fresh look at what it is to be in a body and to feel and experience being in the body. And then taking your time, whenever you feel ready for it, moving your fingers and toes. For starters, just maybe moving your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, you can roll over onto one side. Maybe move your arms a little bit. Roll over onto one side. Bring yourself gently up to a sitting position when you're ready. Okay, and so and then we'll come back up into our chairs or into our sitting positions. And some of us have had a good nap, but before we break, just for a couple of minutes, I'd be curious, what was that like for you? What did you notice in doing the body scan? That was either unexpected or interesting or difficult, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of remnants, leftovers of the previous activities.
Mm-hmm.
So, my talking before, and also, sitting, and some muscles were more tense. And this is the one thing. And the second thing is that I noticed that I had some tendency to do some movements. It was hard for me to stay still.
Yeah.
I wanted to move. Because when I was in spots of the body, we're still lost. And I feel like my body wants to do this movement, just invites me to this.
Yeah. Is that what you mean by remnants of the talking?
Remnants of the talking, like, in my mind, there was still a lot of topics going through, and it's hard to just be present, and my attention just escaped from. I had difficulty to follow your instruction.
Mm-hmm.
But also, some remnants in my body from just sitting, and some tensions in different parts of the body, because it's hard work.
Yeah, hard work. And part of the practice, right, is just noticing those impulses, and then deciding, am I going to give way to the impulse, or am I going to stay with this? And that's always a choice. But noticing the busyness of the mind, noticing what it wants. So that's part of the process too.
Yeah. It was also more difficult for me to control these impulses when I was laying down and sitting.
Yeah.
They just go, I found my hands moving.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah. And maybe that's useful to experience that as someone who teaches, because almost everyone who is sitting for the first time or doing a body scan for the first time is probably feeling that nervous energy, right? It's hard to sit still. It's hard to lie still. So that's what it feels like. So it's useful to to feel that in ourselves as well. And anything else that came up for anybody?
It's one of my practice that I use very often. I'm doing that while doing static trainings. And at the beginning, I really had to work with my body to do those statics and really do the body scan. Mm-hmm. But now it's like just by the contact with the water and repeating it many times, immediately my body just relaxes. Mm-hmm. It was also like that one. I have a nap, but it doesn't mean that I slept. I wasn't having any pictures, dreaming, but I just skipped time.
Yeah.
Like empty-minded, and at some point my consciousness turned back. And also in that way, I feel immediately very invigorated. That I asked you to wake him up, because you moved him in a really deep sleep, and probably he will rest a lot during.
Yeah.
It's good to do this scans regularly by yourself, because it helps just to relax. It helps just to relax when having a hard day. It helps to clean your body after having a healthy, stressful day. And also learn how to get into the sleep just like that. Many people doesn't have, especially people with stress. Cannot just go into the sleep and just.
I've had a lot of my MBSR students tell me that when they can't sleep, they will put on the body scan, and it will put them right to sleep. That, a moment of awareness of sensations in the body is a moment when we're not caught in our thinking. And a lot of what causes insomnia is we're just stuck thinking.
I think in consciousness is that even when we are sleeping, our ears still hear. That's why in Buddhism, in Zen Buddhism, it is so emphasized that the hearing, even the Safar Sutra is starting with Avalokiteshvara. And Avalokiteshvara is known as the ones who listens to the word.
Yeah.
So this awareness of hearing hears so much that just even when I was sleeping, when you just start slowly to move your fingers, my consciousness went back and I was just starting to sleep.
Yeah.
I was like in total hypnosis.
I think another, and this practice, by the way, is another practice drawn from, sort of repackaged from Theravada and Buddhism, like mindfulness is. But I think another benefit of the body scan is that as an introductory practice is, if you do the MBSR class, it's 45 minutes. So it's a long time to lie there. And yet it begins to, it has a double function. One is it's tuning you back into more subtle sensations in the body, but it also is preparing you for being able to stay with practice longer than you thought you could. It's beginning to bring in an element of concentration and sort of willingness to override, the impulse to just get up and do something else, which is so strong in us. But anyway, thank you.
My feedback, two things. I think you have a really excellent voice for doing that. It's really soothing and similar, I think, a little bit to Sagan. I kept just wanting just to do a total body relaxation. I was resisting the effort to concentrate on this and this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's boring as hell. And so then, as in everything, everything sort of belongs. Everything belongs in the sense that noticing the resistance is really, really important information, right? So noticing the forms that resistance takes, the more and more subtle forms of resistance is a big part of the MBSR curriculum, because resistance to what is kind of the very nature of suffering. Anything that we're resisting is that we're in resistance to is a moment of suffering, and the kind of allowing things to be what they are, even if I'm bored, bored out of my mind, but just allowing it to be the way it is. That's a moment that we're not suffering. So what forms does resistance take? And there's, resisting, that's useful, right? Thank you.
I also asked Kurt to do that. I don't know, have you ever tested that with disciples while doing some sessions? I was doing that during sessions that I just organized. And I found this kind of practice very beneficial for people while being in the session.
Yeah. So when I was giving the instruction to, I could say a lot more about it in the body scan, but you know, our attention tends to go to where there's the most obvious discomfort in the body, right? I mean, just like, and when we're doing Zazen in Sesshin, there's usually a lot of pain for most people anyway. There's a lot of pain in the knees or in the legs, and that the tendency to tense up around pain and to obsess on that place of pain makes it obviously worse. So the ability to with the body scan, it can be really minor discomforts, like an itch or, but to soften into it, to kind of relax into the point of discomfort. Often doesn't always make the pain go away, but many times it will ease the intensity of the pain, and even if it doesn't, we can change our relationship with the pain by softening toward it. And that's the same with emotional pain, right? If we allow pain to be there rather than trying to barricade it, push it away, and sort of then then we're changing our relationship with pain, and it becomes a teacher rather than a problem to be, vanquished. Anyway, thank you.
I will propose that we will have a half an hour break, and then we will do questions and answers, or just matcha drinking as this meditation kind of ceremony before golden hour. And we, during that time, might go to adjust the stuff that we need for the sound.
Go to the store.
We will go to the store, and you got like.
If you want me to go to the store, I can do it this time.
Well, it's no problem. We know what to buy. So if you want to go with us, please go. If not, you are having like 35 minutes of break, and we will meet at 4:30 for matcha tea, and then after matcha we will do golden hour. We will drink here. Yeah. I like this sitting in silence and atmosphere of meditation.
Okay.